I want to emphasize something that was just said about silence. Um, I want to emphasize something that was just said about silence. Sometimes I'll stop talking like I just did. All that I have to say is probably nowhere near as important as when I stop talking to give something else a chance to understand, something else a chance to come in. So even if I'm engaged with you at some point, talking back and forth, and I stop, give it a few minutes. I'll keep doing that. There's incredible energy there. It's permeating this room. This talk is coming from there. That is being all this. What is happening now? This room, all of us, is everything that has ever happened. Sure, there's a different personality here and over there, but those personalities are only what they are because of all the other different personalities that influenced this personality. Even though they're different, you cannot separate them. Every personality I met is this personality expressing itself. I can't take anybody out of it. This conditioning, although different, same deal, right? It's all appearing, being in this silence. This. I got a question for everybody. Did anybody really listen to the video, What Does It Mean to Be Awake? No, hardly anybody. Did anybody actually listen to it all the way through? I'm surprised. I am really surprised. That's a hard one to get through. Did anybody do any of you have any questions or what did you mean by that, Paul? Or what did George mean by X? Or anything you wanted to be going into more?
I have a question. I was wondering something George mentioned in the. I think he asked you in the towards the end of it, but I wanted to hear you talk about a little more. He talked about kind of this. I don't know if it's a contradiction, but intuiting that there's nothing to be done, but also feeling like not complete, or that not everything is answered, and what one should do in that situation.
Okay, so let's back up then. Now, whatever I say, I'm not saying anything I say is not meant to be believed in. This is not about belief. This is about finding out for oneself. So I'm just going to be pointing to things and maybe using metaphors, but they're not to be believed in. They're just meant for exploration, for questioning, for looking into yourself. So let's back up a little bit. What is this about? Yeah, I'm humbled being here with all you people. You've read everything. Some of you are awake. There's really nothing I can tell you, and I don't really want to speak to your intellect, but sometimes I haven't got a choice. So let's back up a little bit. What's our situation as human beings? Let's go back in time to like a place, it's almost like being a child again, a real newborn child. Early in human history, thought was appearing in awareness, which I call awareness and openness. And when I speak about self, I'm using the small s self. And when I say mind, it's a small m mind. So it isn't the capital M mind or the capital S self, just so that doesn't get confused. Okay? All right, so let's go back in time where thought was just simply appearing in awareness. Thought and awareness were dancing together. Form was appearing in awareness. Awareness was being that form. There was no separation between the formless and the form. They were both the same. At one point, and some of you have heard me say this before, at one point there was a thought maybe similar to this. Those are my thoughts. Big deal. That really caught on. Thought conceived of a thinker. An idea. Thought has this idea that it is thinking. Doing that, thought has separated itself as the thinker and the thought. There's a separation there. The thinker now has control over thought, when actually it's thought that thinks it has control over itself. This seemed to be a natural thing to happen because the body was doing that already. The child's growing up. It learns how to the body learns how to separate itself from its environment for navigational purposes. Now, thought is doing the same thing. It's separating itself from the thinking, from the thoughts that are automatically coming into being. And it thinks, oh, I'm a Catholic. I'm an American. I'm black. I'm white. I'm Muslim. Portuguese, Indian. And it identifies it. There's a real belief. The thing here, there's a real belief that the thinker is real. It is doing. It has consciousness. It believes it has awareness. It is what is being aware. It begins to see that separation is a problem, that the authoritarian principles that it's creating about how it should be, how it shouldn't be, is creating conflict. Now it wants to address the conflict. It wants peace. So now it has an authoritarian principle that says that shouldn't be there. That conflict shouldn't be there. Which is conflict with the conflict. Well, I'll do meditation to get rid of the conflict. The meditation becomes a means to an end. The meditation's not being done for its own sake. There's no passion for truth here. There's just self-concern. And it's not being seen. It becomes very adept at observing itself. I know that's what happened to me as a person who was doing 2 hours of yoga a day, about 3/4 an hour of meditation, and teaching yoga almost every day. I became very adept. That thinker, the doer, the one who has awareness, the one who is paying attention, became very good at that. Watching every breath, watching every thought, especially the thoughts. Watching the movement of how it creates conflict. That thought it had achieved something was in a good place. I had all my yoga students, and I used to do satsang and the whole thing. Until something unexpected happened. And I know something similar to this has happened to some of you. And I just took a break from the ashram, was out in the pine forest, beautiful pine forest, and the pollens were all in full bloom, and there was yellow all on the forest floor, and my sneakers were turning yellow. Watching every breath, watching every thought, watching when they stopped and they'd come back in, listening to the birds in the canopy. All of a sudden, there was a seeing that came in. And what became clear was the entity, the so-called entity, doer, the one who was aware. That was the thinker watching itself. Thought was trying to watch thought. There was division there, and that couldn't see a thing. That was totally blind. That's what we devoid. That was incapable of doing what it thought it was doing. It had stepped in the shoes of God, if you will. That there was a seeing there that couldn't be experienced. That was a non-experience. But it couldn't be denied. I couldn't see anything. I was totally incapable of that. I couldn't do anything. It was being done. There was action, there was clarity, there was no denying that. That was how it made itself known, by way, action without an actor. So the perspective now has changed. The doer of the thought is put in its place. It can't do the seeing. It doesn't do the seeing. It's not the intelligence. It's not capable of waking up. Then in that instant, there can be an incredible download of the fact that that clarity, that awareness, it was always there until the self came in and took its place and took credit for it. You know, sometimes you have an aha moment and you go, okay, so let's make it personal. So in my biker days, for those of you that don't know, I was the leader of a couple of different notorious motorcycle gangs. And I was a real macho guy. Used to go around beating people up. Much bigger than me. And I was surrounded by all these really tough macho guys. I always had to prove myself. Constantly had to prove myself. One day, there was a realization. The undercurrent of that machismo was fear. the only reason why I was being such a tough guy was because I was afraid not to be. I looked around me and it's all the same. These guys are being so tough, they're afraid not to be. That, you see, awareness is always there revealing stuff to us. But we take credit for it. The thinker takes credit for it. And at that point in my life, I said, oh yeah, I get it. See, I get it. And there's no recognition of that intelligence that's there. The self has identified with that intelligence. It is that intelligence. I'm the one that's intelligent. I get it. And that's how it hangs on. What if you couldn't get it? What if it's not you that's going to get it? You can't go to the party. Maybe there's a party there, but you can't go. So what happens sometimes, I think, that gets confusing is spiritual experiences. So now what we're talking about is not an experience. That awakening, that awareness that came in was a shift in perception, which is permanent. If that takes hold, it's permanent. We're not talking about experiences that come and go, come and go. And sometimes people do have experiences which are mistaken, in my humble opinion, are mistaken for awakening. And it just creates confusion. We could go more into that if you wanted. It can create confusion, attachment, and also it can lead other people astray. So now where are we at? What's left to do? What is doing? Is there some energy there? Say there's energy there for enlightenment. Energy there that wants to be awake. Is that there? What is that? What's the quality of that energy? Does it want to be a better person? Is it self-concerned? Oh, we don't want to see that. That's more self-concern. Is there an energy there that really wants to understand the truth about that? doesn't matter if I'm an asshole. I just want to, there's energy there. It wants to see the truth. What am I doing with my life? What is this life about? Who am I? Is all there is in life a question I ask deeply once myself? Just the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain? Is that all life's about? Is there an energy there now that really wants to know the truth about that, no matter what it is? Unknowingly, something changed. Something flipped. That energy couldn't care less about self-concern. It just wants to see the truth. The energy is not about you progressing. It's not about you going from point A to point B. It's about what is going from point A to point B about. That's different. And that's moving in a lot of you here. It can be moving in us and we won't even know it until it really knocks us for a loop. That was trying to go back to your question. So that's kind of the place where I think a lot of us find ourselves. Maybe without even realizing that energy is flipping back and forth. And then the energy comes in that wants it to be about the passion for truth. And if that comes into that energy that is the passion for truth, it'll just be seen for what it is. That can be like, oh no. And that's seen for what it is. And it all doesn't matter. It just wants to see what is. And it's at peace with what is. It's okay with what is because all that matters is the truth. Okay. So say there's an awakening. Let's do some post-awakening stuff. Because I think that's important, because I think sometimes when people have awakening, it goes, shoot, and they're expecting everything all of a sudden to be all oneness. And they're going, where's all the oneness?
But isn't awakening about permanence? So if it has come and gone, then is it really awakening then?
No. No. So where was I? That's all right. I was getting to something. It's gone. Oh yeah, post-awakening. So let's just look at what seems to happen. And again, words are limited. Whatever I say here, I'm going to fail. Just hope I don't fail too badly. That's all that's all I can do. Okay, so a person's awake. But all this self, all this activity, all this energy of self-concern has found its place in the tissue of the biology of the brain. Right? There's all synapses and networks, there's a part of the brain that's really dedicated to this. This is physical now. We're talking about this physical responses. So, and this can be different for different people because we're all different. I'm just trying to relay something best I can. So again, I can relate something personal that happened when I had my awakening. I was driving a semi down a really crowded expressway with very little room to pull over. This is post-awake. This thought came up that went, oh, does this mean I'm enlightened now? It was like a cosmic joke. It just couldn't quit. It was trying to grab a hold of it. It was ridiculous. It didn't have a chance. And I just was laughing and laughing and laughing so hard I could not drive that semi. I pulled it over to the side of the road, pot out on the expressway, pot off the road, laid it over the steering wheel, and just couldn't stop laughing. I was lucky no state trooper came along because I would have just kept laughing. So, now there's openness. There's nobody there who is thinking the thoughts. There is nobody there who can do anything about thoughts coming and going. There's no desire to do anything about the state of mind. This is more, I'm trying to relate something more than a state of mind. States of mind are coming and going in this. And that which is not a state of mind has no problem with the different states of mind. It is just being those different states of mind. It's not engaging in them. It doesn't believe in them. It doesn't believe in anything. There's just what is. Say it's possible that you get angry all of a sudden. Somebody triggers something in that neural network. Or the computer's, God damn computer. And that's your neural pathways responding to something. There's nobody there that's saying it shouldn't be, or it's not good, or it should be better than that. I shouldn't. And even if that comes in and says, oh, I'm enlightened now, I should be better than that. It's not believed in. It's just stuff. There's no conflict with it. I'm not better than that. Okay? But there's, in this openness, this open awareness, that's just moving through, just passing through. It's not engaged in, it's not believed in. And when you don't use a muscle, what happens to it? It atrophies, right? And depending on the person's personality, trauma in their lives, that's going to be different for different people. That atrophy is going to take longer for some people. Some people may have hardly any problem. Not that it's a problem. It's only a problem because, again, we make it into a problem. So, as that if energy resides in that openness, there's embodiment of awareness. Some people may term that enlightenment. Now one is enlightened of all that neural process that has really gone, it hardly comes back. It hardly reacts.